When trawling through the various items on YouTube, I happened to stumble upon the word Catalpa. It caught my eye immediately as it was associated with the words rescue and Australia's historic past. Never heard of it, I thought, and wondered why, as our past has been well documented and taught in our schools. Sometime later I finally had the full story. I never heard of it because it had been kept a secret for over 100 years. Why? Because it was all too embarrassing for our British colonial masters at the time when Britain ruled the waves, or was supposed to. Even a song written about the incident was promptly banned.
Oh, come all you gallant Irishmen, and the story I'll relate.
The amazing drama involved 4 countries: England, Ireland, Australia and the U.S.A. It all began in Ireland in 1867 when the British authorities there rounded up 62 supporters of the Irish independence movement and deported them to the penal colony of Western Australia. These Irish nationals were referred to as Fenians. They landed there a year later and were incarcerated in the Fremantle convict establishment. 2 years later, one John Boyle O'Reilly had had enough and escaped on the whaling ship Gazelle and ended up in Boston, where he became the editor of a newspaper called The Pilot. In 1871, in Ireland, another Fenian, one John Devoy, was granted amnesty on the condition that he leave the country. He immediately packed his bags and sailed for New York, where he became a newspaper man with the New York Herald. He then joined the Clan na Gael, an organisation that supported armed insurrection in Ireland. After another round of pardons, the number of imprisoned Fenians in Fremantle jail was reduced to one small group. A letter from one of these, James Wilson, was smuggled out to John Devoy in New York, pleading with him to try and arrange a rescue for those who remained. Devoy discussed the matter with O'Reilly and Thomas McCarthy Fennell, who, it happened, was another ex-convict from Fremantle Prison. It was Fennell who suggested that a ship be purchased laden with legitimate cargo and sail to Western Australia, where it would not be expected to arouse suspicion. In 1874, the Clan na Gael agreed to fund the mission. Devoy then approached the whaling agent John T. Richardson, who told him to contact his son-in-law, whaling captain George Smith Anthony, a Mormon, who agreed to help. All the characters were now in place for one of the most daring escapes in history. A 3-masted whaling ship, the Catalpa, was purchased for $5,200, and Captain Anthony recruited 22 sailors, all unaware of their true mission. The Catalpa sailed from New Bedford, Massachusetts on April the 29th, 1875. Unfortunately, after they sailed, it was discovered that the ship's chronometer was broken, so Anthony would have to rely on his own skills for navigation. Another problem occurred when the ship offloaded 210 barrels of sperm whale oil in the Azores, and most of the crew deserted. A replacement crew then had to be recruited before the ship could sail for Western Australia. At the same time that Captain Anthony was dealing with his problems across the waters, 2 Fenian agents, John Breslin and Tom Desmond, arrived in Western Australia. Breslin masqueraded as an American businessman, John Collins. He carried suitable letters of introduction and quickly got acquainted with Sir William Cleaver Robinson, the Governor of Western Australia, who took him on a tour of their convict establishment. While Breslin mixed in with the high society, Desmond took a job as wheelwright and recruited 5 local Irishmen who were to cut the telegraph lines that connected the settlement to the rest of Australia on the day of the escape. However, things were not going well for Captain Anthony as the Catalpa sailed into a violent storm where she lost her foremast. This put them well behind their schedule. After repairs were carried out, they eventually dropped anchor in Bunbury on March the 27th, 1876. They were met by John Breslin, and together they planned the rescue. The chosen day was April 6th. The sudden appearance of some Royal Navy ships caused them to rearrange their plans, and so they chose instead April the 17th, the day of the Royal Perth Yacht Club Regatta. On the day of the escape, the Catalpa dropped anchor in international waters off the town of Rockingham and dispatched a whaleboat to the shore. At 8:30 a.m, the 6 Fenians, who were outside the prison walls on work detail, absconded and were met by Breslin and Desmond, who had carriages waiting. The carriages then raced 50 kilometres south to their rendezvous at Rockingham, where Anthony awaited with the whaleboat. Unfortunately, the landing party had been seen by one of the local men, who then alerted the authorities. If this wasn't bad enough, when the boat left the shore with the escaped prisoners, they sailed straight into a violent storm that lasted until 7 a.m. the next morning. The storm was so intense that later Anthony stated that he did not expect any of them to survive. But survive they did, and quickly headed for the waiting ship. Their problems were not over yet, however, as they spotted the steamship SS Georgette, which had been commandeered by the colonial governor, heading straight towards the Catalpa. The men lay down in the rowboat, hoping not to be seen, as the Georgette concentrated on the larger ship. The ruse worked, and after following the Catalpa for several hours, the Georgette was forced to return to Fremantle for refueling. As the desperate men again struck out for the sanctuary of the ship, a police cutter was spotted with 30 to 40 armed men on board. It was now a race to see who could get to the Catalpa first. Exhausted as the men were, they just managed to beat the police cutter, and eager hands helped them on board. Frustrated in their attempt to capture the escapees, the cutter lingered a while beside the whaler and then returned to shore. However, problems continued for Captain Anthony, for when the sails were set for their getaway, the wind dropped and the Catalpa was becalmed and going nowhere. The next day, a refueled and now heavily armed Georgette returned to the scene and came alongside the whaler, demanding the surrender of the prisoners. When their demands were refused, the Georgette attempted unsuccessfully to herd the ship back into Australian waters. She then fired a warning shot with a 12-pounder cannon that had been installed the night before. Again ignoring the demand to surrender, Anthony raised the American flag, pointing out that any attack on the Catalpa would be regarded as an act of war against the U.S.A. The stalemate was broken when a breeze filled the Catalpa's sails, and the captain quickly set a westward course, still followed by the Georgette. Not wanting to cause an international incident and running low on fuel, the captain of the Georgette had no alternative but to order a return to Perth, while the Catalpa slipped quietly into the Indian Ocean. The cut cables would give them a little time before news of the escape reached the rest of the world. But still, the ever-cautious Captain Anthony did his best to avoid any Royal Naval ships on his return journey. On the 6th of June, news of the successful escape reached O'Reilly in Boston, who immediately released the news to the press. It sparked celebrations in the United States and Ireland and anger in Britain. Queen Victoria was not amused. The escape was condemned officially in Australia, but there was considerable sympathy for the ex-prisoners amongst the general population. The Catalpa sailed into New York Harbour on August the 19th, 1876. Although now a hero, Captain Anthony was unable to sail in international waters because the Royal Navy could have him arrested on sight. For his services to the cause, the Catalpa was presented to Captain Anthony as a gift, and she finished her days as a coal barge. On the 9th of September 2005, a memorial was unveiled in Rockingham to commemorate the escape. And now, before we leave the saga of the good ship Catalpa and the fleeing Fenians, let's listen to a chorus of the song that so upset our colonial masters all those many years ago.
Here's to the ship Catalpa and the boys of Uncle Sam, and to all the Irishmen afloat and the Fenians to a man. Here's to Captain Anthony, bold Breslin and his crew, when challenged by the Empire's might, the stars and stripes she flew.